Hello and welcome to another episode of Earth911's Sustainability in Your Ear, the podcast conversation with a changemaker working to accelerate the transition to a sustainable carbon-neutral society. I'm your host, Mitch Ratcliffe. Wanting to be sustainable is easy. Acting sustainably requires substantial effort. It takes time and no shortage of expertise to identify products and services with a low or no carbon footprint. And shopping for the best price is difficult because many of the key appliances and home improvements are sold primarily through local power utilities. YellowTin is a new artificial intelligence-powered service that provides education and product recommendations across a wide range of categories, including appliances, electric vehicles and bikes, solar panels, home batteries, and renewable energy. Think of YellowTin as an advisor that scours the fast-changing sustainability landscape for new options. Our guest today is Tony Wessling. He's the marketing and communications leader for YellowTin, which describes itself as simplifying and democratizing access to clean energy. The company was founded in 2019 and was incubated by the Los Angeles chapter of the U.S. Green Building Council's Net Zero Accelerator. The service is available through partner sites as an embedded feature that gives consumers and employees at companies that offer YellowTin access to carbon tracking tools, discounts, and other incentives that help them transition to a renewable energy and decarbonize their lifestyles. In sum, they want to make renewable energy guidance an employee benefit available to everybody. You can learn more about YellowTin at www.yellowtin, there's no dash, no space, yellowtin.com. Welcome to the show, Tony. How are you doing today?
I'm doing well, Mitch. How are you?
Great. Well, thank you very much for joining us and talking with us about YellowTin. So, our listeners might encounter YellowTin's service for the first time at work as a benefit provided by their HR department or embedded in a news site like Earth911, perhaps, or an entertainment site. Tell us briefly what YellowTin helps consumers and businesses do. How does it help them accelerate their adoption of renewable energy and the various electric devices we'll need?
Sure. Well, as most of your listeners probably know, about 42% of U.S. emissions actually come from the homes we live in and the cars we drive. That's massive. But we can eliminate these emissions through what we call whole lifestyle electrification. Now, of course, this requires the removal of coal, oil, and natural gas-derived energy sources from the home, and gasoline and diesel fuel from transportation. And then in their place, using clean energy and in the form of electricity.
So how do you use the artificial intelligence to assess all those options and surface them for somebody? How will that feel?
It's very straightforward, put it that way. We personalize the experience for each user, which means when they come on board, they arrive via a landing page that would be set up for their sort of this host company. So suppose I work for company A, and they decide to adopt YellowTin as one of their benefits that they offer their employees. I would get a notice from either the sustainability team or the benefits team, the HR team, that this was available. I would go on to a branded platform. So it's white labeled. It's not branded YellowTin. It's powered by YellowTin, but it's branded for that company. And then I would fill out, where do I live? What's my zip code? What's my housing situation? What's my transportation situation? And it would then generate recommendations on how I can reduce my carbon footprint by adopting very specific to my situation, clean energy technologies.
So it'll say, for instance, there's a deal on an electric range top in your area, and provide some kind of incentive, perhaps from your local utility, bringing all of those things together so that I can make an easy decision.
Essentially, that's right. The platform is powered by AI, which derives all of its recommendations from a really massive data set that we have that uses the zip code of a particular user to determine the carbon intensity of the energy they're getting from their utility. And then it takes another data set is all the manufacturers' specifications for all of the clean energy appliances, EVs, bikes, whatever it is that is a clean energy technology or appliance. We gather all that data. And so we put it in these two data sets, the energy input and the manufacturer's, their OEM data set. We put that all together and then we match it via this personalization.
Okay, so and I want to talk more about that information later, but let's talk a little more about the use experience. What can I track? Does it when I first enter that information you described earlier, does it give me sort of here's your estimated carbon footprint and here's where we can take it? And in addition, these are the steps you could take?
Yeah, it tracks both. It tracks essentially potential savings. You put in your information that says this is your current carbon output for your home and transportation. Here's what you could save as you add. Let's say you say, okay, here's my carbon footprint. Mm-hmm. If I add an EV to this mix and replace my gasoline car, it knows I drive X number of miles a week in this car, and so it says, well, if you switch to an EV, you're going to save this much carbon, and then over a period of time, you're going to save this much money. So it shows users, how their home choices and how their transportation choices, how they're costing them money and how they're costing the planet in terms of the CO2 impact. So the tracking is really dynamic, though. So suppose your utility changes the price of energy, mm-hmm. then the platform knows that because we have this constantly updated data set from the utilities. So it says, hey, if you keep on buying gas from this utility, your carbon footprint is going to stay the same, but your cost is going to go up. So if you switch to heat pump heating, you are going to not only save tons of money, whether that's over 5, 10, 20 years, it shows you how much money you're going to save, and it shows you how much carbon you're saving. And since you input all your information about your home and such, it says, okay, you have a hot water heater. You put that in 2020, or maybe 2021, whatever, and it says you're going to want to replace that in about 12 years. So by the time 2034 rolls around, it's saying you really should replace your hot water heater with this new heat pump hot water heater. So it's really dynamic in that way.
So now one of the things that might happen is that a user would have a YellowTin account on one site, but they might encounter YellowTin on another. Are you going to be able to log into both of those using one account, or will you need to have a different account on each site? Well,
at the moment, it's not portable. So say you get YellowTin at home through your local home improvement retailer, mm-hmm. and then at work your company adopts it as a benefit. At the moment, we can't put those two things together, but that's our ultimate goal. Okay. Is to have a universal platform with portable, personalized data, just like your phone number. When you move, in the old days, you used to have to change your phone number. And then they made it so that phone numbers are portable. So if you change a provider, you can keep your phone number. We're going to make it so that your e-lifestyle is portable. Mm-hmm. Your data and your recommendations will go with you wherever you go, whether you change jobs, move to a new city. All these things will eventually be something that you will be able to take with you and understand the impact of things like changing a job where maybe your commute gets longer, or changing to a different city where perhaps the carbon intensity of the electricity is higher. So we are working towards that because we think that it's important for people to be able to take their e-lifestyle with them wherever they go.
So this is an interesting question. Why did you decide to build this distributed and embedded experience rather than a destination where you went to work with YellowTin? That is obviously a critical decision. What was the reasoning?
It is, and it's really pretty simple. Building a consumer brand is really, really expensive. It's that getting that kind of awareness in the marketplace, building that kind of trust with a standalone brand, it's very, very difficult. You look at, you see a lot of these brands that like Angie's List or Consumer Value Star, where they've tried to build a consumer brand from nothing. It's very, very difficult to build that trust now. On the other hand, I've been, using PG&E for my entire life. I trust the PG&E brand. I may not agree with everything it does, but I do understand the brand and I have a relationship with it. Or maybe I go to Home Depot, or perhaps I work for a climate forward company. Each one of these brands is a brand that I trust and have a relationship with. It's much easier for us to go to Home Depot and say, hey, offer your employees this as a benefit and offer this to your customers as a loyalty reward. And
because you get access to a big audience through that.
Exactly. We build a user base much faster at a much lower cost by going to the organizations that they trust.
Now, how does YellowTin earn its revenue?
So we mainly at the moment earn the bulk of our revenue through a SaaS model, software as a service. So we charge, again, these forward-looking climate aware companies pay us a fee, an annual fee, and we provide it then as a service to their employees and customers. And then additionally, if somebody uses the marketplace function of our platform to purchase something, we get an affiliate's fee for that. So we get basically a small part of revenue for every hot water heat pump hot water heater that we sell through our site.
So does that potentially represent a revenue stream for the company that embeds it? Do you do any kind of revenue split with the company to help them offset the cost of making this available to their employee or their customer? Each relationship is different. If say it's a tech company, they don't need a revenue split, with us. They're looking simply to offer a benefit. If it's a media company, that's different, right? So a media company would be a company that we might do a revenue split with, so that it offsets the cost of the platform itself, and that way it's a win-win for everybody. Now, we talked earlier about the fact that AI is making these recommendations. What kind of staffing have you put against the problem of assessing products and mapping what you understand about products to the recommendations you can make?
Yeah, that's, the staffing is kind of funny because it really doesn't require staff but
the AI requires models. And how do you?
Yes, that's right.
How do you tell the AI what to do with its analytics?
So Paul Meagher, one of the co-founders, is a climate scientist, and he's a data geek. And he has built these dynamic data sets for every utility in the country, their rates, their tariffs, also built every incentive and rebate that is offered through the government. And then also we have that individualized user data that is input by the user. Those three things come together and provide the personalized recommendations. We don't actually have to do much besides make sure that data is up to date, which is no small feat, but it really is. Once the data set was built and connected to the platform, The AI does most of that work. And since we don't refer any specific manufacturer, we simply gather their data on their appliances, their products, and then we input that into the data modeling. But we don't, unlike a lot of these sites where they're really just trying to get you to buy a certain brand of hot water heater or heat pump or EV or whatever, we don't push a particular brand. We just provide all the options. And then when it comes to things like, what kind of EV you might want, we partner with companies like TrueCar, and they provide all the options to these people from a local dealer, provide test drives, things like this. Or if it were a solar installer, we don't work directly with solar installers. We work with Energy Sage, who's a partner. They source and vet all of the providers, suppliers. Okay. Or Lowe's does the same thing. They offer, solar arrays and batteries through.
So you leverage their vetting of those professionals.
Exactly. It would be just too much of a big job. It's already a big job to maintain the utility data set, the manufacturer data set. If we had to then, in addition, maintain a whole data set and vetting process for suppliers, that would be something. Luckily, we have partners who do that for us.
You guys have done an awful lot having bootstrapped this, and it's a fascinating story. I want to take a quick commercial break. We're going to be right back. Welcome back to the discussion. We're talking with Tony Wessling of YellowTin about the company's clean energy coaching and purchasing guide platform. Now, Tony, one of the intriguing ideas you shared with me when we first spoke is that employers are going to want to offer YellowTin as a benefit, like we were talking about. Do companies see adding this kind of service to the employment experience as a key to winning and keeping those particularly younger employees who want to make a change in the world?
Sure. I mean, most companies these days, at least the forward-thinking ones, are in the process of making some sort of net zero commitment, right? They have internal goals, based on their own core values, or they're getting stakeholder pressure. That could be shareholders, it could be customers, partners, and employees. So these companies are having to decarbonize across the board: their supply chain, their product, production, their customers, use of their products, their employees, commutings, things like this. So all of those things are what they call Scope 3 emissions. And so companies that have important ESG goals want to lower those Scope 3 emissions. At the same time, these younger employees, they're across the board looking at work in a very different fashion than previous generations. They want to work for brands that share their values. They want to work for brands that are mission driven. And they also want to work for brands that have an interest in maintaining the planet for future generations. I mean, this is pretty high on their list, right? Because that's them and their children. Yep. So by being able to offer the YellowTin e-lifestyle platform as a benefit, they are saying to this employee, we share your values. We are helping you electrify. We are helping you decarbonize. And so that's absolutely a recruiting plus for these companies.
It's curious to hear you refer to Scope 3 emissions. Now, because on the one hand, a lot of employee lifestyle emissions are outside of those Scope 3 emissions, but how would you tease apart the employment-related emissions that somebody has from their personal emissions that shouldn't count? And that could be a potentially breakthrough insight.
So the platform has the ability to determine a lot of your emissions based on whether they're work-related, say commuting, or whether they're home-related, your refrigerator. And it puts those in different buckets. And it reports all the changes that you make to your lifestyle to decarbonize. It reports all of those to your your host platform. So if I'm working for Intuit, which is one of our customers, they know that I put in a heat pump. Well, they don't know specifically that I put in a heat pump, but they know that I reduced my carbon emissions by a certain amount. They can then take that information, and it says this is home emissions, this is work-related emissions, and they can say our employees are reducing their carbon emissions by X percent or X tons. And so they can use this in their ESG reporting. And it's very powerful to be able to say, hey, we're not just making it so that their work life is carbon free. We're making it so that they're easier for them to make their home life carbon free as well. And they can take credit for that.
You mentioned Intuit a moment ago, and I made a note a few minutes ago as you were speaking that says, do they get acquired by Intuit? Because what this sounds like is part of my personal accounting in the future.
Indeed.
And so there's a really interesting set of questions that revolve around that. You've just addressed privacy to a degree. So what you're saying is that the employer would get aggregate impact information so they could understand how their employee set works, but you wouldn't be able to say, your manager wouldn't come to you and go, why don't you have a new refrigerator?
No, that all that personal data is kept completely confidential. We don't sell any data to anyone. Again, this is a big difference than a lot of these. You go to a solar solar sort of estimator platform. And what they're going to do is they're going to take your information, they're going to sell it to 12 installers who are going to, call you up and say, hey, we understand you want solar, and we don't do that. And so that information stays private, but the aggregate, how much carbon you're saving, that goes to the employer. Mm-hmm. And you get to see how much money you're saving, and you can change the duration. So I can see how much money I'm going to save in 5 years, 10 years, 20 years, and it's startling the amount of money that people can save and see. Hey, if I buy this electric car, sure, it's expensive up front, but wow, over 20 years, I'm saving hundreds of thousands of dollars.
And that's the same kind of insight that Quicken or one of Quicken's competitors would give you about your finances, but now you're rolling in the carbon impact or the environmental impact.
That's right, and tying it also to the monetary impact. These things add up, and electrification, while it's expensive up front, there are all sorts of rebates and incentives, especially with the IRA, the Inflation Reduction Act, that was just passed. In 2023 going forward, electrification is going to take off, and people will adopt electrification faster if they can understand how it's going to impact their pocketbook and understand how it's going to impact the planet. And that's what the YellowTin platform offers.
Well, and certainly we need to accelerate this transition in order to get there in time to avoid the worst impacts of climate change. One of the most intriguing things about the platform is your ability to characterize, as you've described it to me, the energy mix at a utility based on my zip code. How do you do that, and how do you keep up on that information? Even during the course of a day, a utility might have different sources of energy flowing into my home. That's
right. So what we've done is we've built a data set which pulls in the sort of average mix of a particular utility. So suppose you're a Con Edison customer in New Jersey. We know through their environmental filings what their energy mix is at any point. Mm-hmm. And so the data that we pull from those filings helps us specifically show what your carbon output is based on your zip code. So the difference, for instance, just so people can follow along, if I buy an EV, and here in the Northwest, where I happen to be, about 80% of my energy right now is coming from renewables. So I get a good lift, but not
the same lift that I would if I were in Pennsylvania, where my energy is primarily generated by burning fossil fuels. And so the carbon savings is substantially greater, although
Yes,
the financial savings might be the same.
that's correct. And this is another important thing, is that if you already have a solar array on your roof, obviously you are electrified, right? Unless you're using gas as well. Or, shockingly, there are still some homes that are powered by coal, heated by coal. And of course, many in the Northeast that are heated by oil. So those people with very high carbon output because of their heating platforms, they potentially save the most in terms of carbon, but everybody saves money when it comes to electrification. That's across the board.
Now, going back to the idea of you're embedded in various third-party sites, do you see the YellowTin brand evolving as a sustainability seal of approval? And if, or a power, you said powered by, but powered by a sustainability seal of approval is a pretty compelling argument. How are you going to build consumer awareness around the fact that YellowTin is a good source of advice?
Yeah, we'd love to be the Intel inside of sustainable energy, of e-lifestyle choices. And we believe that our road to that kind of awareness and that kind of respect is through our partners. So, our partners, whether they're our customer partners or whether they are our media partners or our provider partners, when we work with these climate forward companies, these climate forward brands, ESG focused brands, and the employees and the customers of those brands begin to see, this platform is powered by YellowTin. And then as we make it portable, and they then go to Home Depot and as part of their loyalty program, they also get, points or whatever, get access to the YellowTin e-lifestyle platform. They begin to think of it as something that should be everywhere and that everybody should have. And then these, and so then you'll get questions like a new employee might ask eventually, hey, well, do you have an electrification benefit? Do you have a decarbonization plan? And they'll say, well, what do you mean? So, well, at Intuit, we had YellowTin. Do you guys have YellowTin or something like it? It's like everybody knows ADP, right? And so it's that sort of thing. When you become a benefits provider, and then the employees know about it, and eventually, customers know about it, and this helps those brands as well. So it's a two-way street. We work with the brands that are climate forward. The brands that are climate forward want to work with YellowTin because we have the most dynamic and comprehensive e-lifestyle platform out there. Like I said, the rest of them are mainly lead gen engines. They're not really interested in decarbonization. They're not really interested in showing people what they're going to save. They're interested in selling people's data.
Point taken. There's a lot to unpack in that statement, and we don't have time for it right now. But Tony, if I'm an employee at a company, what should I ask for, and where can I point my boss to find out more about YellowTin?
Right. So hopefully you've got a forward-thinking boss, and by saying, hey, at my last job, we had this platform, YellowTin, you should look into it because it can help with your ESG reporting, help with your Scope 3 emissions. As I mentioned before, these are going to become more and more important for every company as the regulations on Scope 3 emissions and all other carbon emissions become part of the regulatory landscape. So by bringing in YellowTin, they sort of do an end run around these requirements and at the same time offer a benefit to other employees. So it's usually the sustainability team or the HR team, or if you've got a COO or a CEO who are forward thinking, they're the ones to approach because they can offer this, like I said, as a benefit to employees, as a feather in their cap to shareholders and outside stakeholders. It makes sense for companies to offer this. They just need to be aware of it.
And how can folks find out more about YellowTin?
They can go to YellowTin.com and request a demo. And we'd be happy to put them on our demo platform and explain to them exactly what they're going to get out of having the e-lifestyle platform from YellowTin available to their employees.
Well, Tony, thanks very much for spending time with us today.
I appreciate it very much, Mitch.
We've been speaking with Tony Wessling. He's the marketing and communications leader for YellowTin, which is working to simplify and democratize access to clean energy as an employee benefit and through various media sites. You can find out more at YellowTin.com. YellowTin's all one word, YellowTin, YellowTin.com. You know, the transition to a sustainable economy isn't easy, but none of the major upgrades to human living have ever come at a low price. YellowTin's approach, by providing access to clean energy programs and low-carbon appliances and as an employee benefit, could help bring millions of people forward to a more sustainable lifestyle. And if we don't head off climate change, the disruptions will threaten everyone and every business. So it is an important idea for business to consider offering this as an employee benefit. The challenge for YellowTin is getting large companies, both employers and those media sites, to embrace the idea that their employees' or audience's lifestyle, not just what they do at work, has to be upgraded to ensure a stable business environment. So we'll be following this story. I hope you'll take a few minutes to share this podcast or any of the more than 350 episodes of Sustainability in Your Ear with your friends, family, neighbors, and coworkers. You folks are the amplifiers that spread the ideas that we capture here on the show, and that can all lead to a less wasteful world. Let folks know they can find us on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, iHeartRadio, Audible, or wherever they find their podcast goodness. We appreciate your support. I'm Mitch Ratcliffe. We'll be back with another innovator interview soon. In the meantime, folks, take care of yourself, take care of one another, and let's all take care of this beautiful planet of ours. Have a green day.